Good evening. I would like to call the February 11th, 2025 meeting of the Carver Select Board to order. The time is now 6 o'clock. This meeting is being recorded by Area 58 Community Access Media Channel 9 and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. There are openings on several committees. Please refer to the front page on our website for a listing and application. Would you all mind please standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Hoffman, would you care to lead us on the community prayer?
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we've been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek. And keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Okay, as usual, first item on our agenda is citizens' participation. Is there anyone that would like to come up and approach the mic? All right, seeing no one coming up to the mic. Next item, discussion and possible vote to opt in or out of in-person early voting and vote by mail for the local election. So we have the town clerk.
Good evening. I have a handout for you guys. Would you like me to give it to you? You
Sure.
can follow along with it. Some of the languages.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I apologize for Jean. She just sent me a message. She was on her way and she got delayed. She had a funeral today in the city, so she's stuck in traffic, so she won't be coming. We met to discuss this. As you know, you have to, I think the very first one, for in-person early voting, you need to either opt in or not opt in for it. It's a local election. We've never done in-person voting for it, and you can make this vote based on the recommendations of 50% of the Board of Registrars, and Jean was my other 50%. The vote should be a roll call vote. In-person early voting, it's very labor intensive. It involves expenses that we just haven't budgeted for. Offering in-person voting for a local election, it's costly. It's based upon the attendance from last elections, like the state primaries. We'd be open for a week, a solid week, and we might have 96 people or 92 people show up to vote. And to staff for that, it's just not economical to do so. We'd be setting a precedence. We'd have to do it probably going forward. You'd still be required to do these votes, but you'd be setting a precedent. So if you do it for this election, you're going to have to do it for next election. If it's an idea, which I know I've talked to a couple of people and they like the idea of it, but maybe it's something we should talk about so I can make sure that I have funding in my budget to cover it, because that's my biggest concern, that it's going to be an extra expense that we just don't have the funding for at this time. It requires the poll pads to be accessed, and you have to have those programmed, so it's a separate event from the election. You'd have to have them done for the early voting, and then again have them programmed again for the election. The staff in my office, I don't have overtime budgeted for them, and it would require some overtime for them as well. So that's the first part of it. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer, but that's kind of the in-person voting in a nutshell for a local election.
Any questions, Mr.?
Sure. And what was the recommendation of the Board of Registrars?
Not to offer
Okay.
it, but we do have an alternative. So the third paragraph, we discussed absentee voting, and we can, as soon as we get those ballots, we can publicize that absentee voting with an application can go on during town hall normal business hours and up until noontime on Friday before the election. So someone could come, take a ballot, go to the table behind us and vote, and it wouldn't cost us anything because we're not mailing anything, we're not staffing with anyone extra. We're there, we can offer that, and I think that would do that overflow of people that might not be able to attend on Saturday. And I also have some statistics from the last 3 years of elections for totals of people that have come out, if you'd like to hear those. In 2022, we had 757 voters. In 2023, there were 645. And in 2024, 554. So that's something to consider.
Siemens, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So what were the numbers for the in-person early voting? Do you have
We've
those?
never had in-person early voting for a local election.
Oh, for local election?
Yes, for a local. We'll continue to have in-person voting for the state elections.
Okay.
And that we budget for. It's just, for this one, we would never have budgeted for it because it's never been done before.
Okay.
Mr.
Right, so
Ryan?
based on the recommendation of the Town Clerk and Board of Registrars, I'll make a vote to opt out of in-person early voting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, issues, or concerns? Hearing none, I believe this is a roll call vote.
Yes. Yeah.
Dan Ryan says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
John Carter says aye.
Jim Hoffman says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Okay. And the second part is for vote by mail. So vote by mail, again, it's costly. Right now, to mail an application, I believe it's 69 cents for a stamp. I think it's going up tomorrow. You'd have to mail an application out to someone, and then if they return the application, you would then mail them a ballot. So when we last mailed ballots for the last election, they were 97 cents each. Sometimes you don't get them back, so you're mailing them out. It's a cost that we would have to put out. Again, it's labor-intensive, overtime costs for staff, election workers. That's the main thing with vote by mail. Vote by mail is by right in this state. So if we were to get an application, I have applications that are online, applications that are sitting on my desk, we would honor those. I don't think we'd be getting hundreds of them. So we would honor those and mail that person a ballot. I think that's fair. Again, we could publicize the absentee voting and see if someone would want to come in person, and if they couldn't, absentees go out by mail. We have a regular list of absentee voters that we send out to, and if someone wanted to do vote by mail, I think it's not a great expense. I don't think we'd have great numbers requesting ballots.
I'll make a motion that we opt out of vote by mail for the next local election.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions,
Yes.
issues? from Ms.
So
Humans?
just to be real clear, Ms. Dayhill, so if we get rid of this vote by mail for the local election, people can still come by your office, pick up a request.
They can
Fill it out
do
there,
an
give it to you.
absentee application. Yeah, they would just be doing it right there at the counter.
And then they could get it in the mail and mail it in.
Well, they could get it in the mail, or they could vote in person. That if they were coming to get one and they had an absentee application and they requested it to be mailed, we'd mail it. If they did a vote by mail application, which is a separate application, we would still honor it and mail it. We're just not going to mail applications to almost 10,000 residents. Yeah. Yeah.
I understand that part. You're not going to mail, but they will be available
They're available,
if
yes.
people want to pick
If they
one up
want
and mail.
to, they can have them, yes.
Okay. That's all I wanted to
We're
know.
just not gathering together as a town and mailing out, to every
everyone.
registered voter an application.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Ryan?
That was my question, too, is that we're not going to mail applications, but people can certainly pick up applications and still get a mailed
Yep,
ballot
they're
to fill out.
Available online and
And
at the
online, too.
desk across from my office.
I think that
Yep.
makes sense. Okay, thank you.
So those, real short, so those would get mailed to them, but they have to request it?
Yes, they do,
Personally, yeah.
unless they're on our absentee list. We do
Okay.
have an absentee list. We have permanent absentees that every election, regardless of what it is, they get a ballot, so.
Great.
And they can do it
Yep.
online, too, which is
Yep.
clarified. So you can go online and request that it be sent to you
Great.
versus mail to you.
So we have a
Yes.
motion, we have a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Ryan?
Dan Ryan says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
John Carter says aye.
Jim Hoffman says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, so the next item is the acceptance and/or recommendation of warrant articles for the annual town meeting. So, I guess the first item is the town report. How do you want to handle this, Mr. Gannon? Do you want to just do a motion to add this to the warrant? And
Is it
then
If I
the board
could, yeah,
feel-
I'd like to have two motions, one to add it to the warrant, and one, if the board is willing to take a vote on it.
So two separate
I think
motions.
it's-
That's how we've always done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we've always done it. yeah.
So I guess I'll move to add the article for the annual town report to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
Second.
Any questions, issues, concerns? Seeing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Then I'll make a motion that we recommend the article
Second.
1 for annual town report.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. All right. Next one, unpaid bills. I think that's Article 2.
11? No, I think it's 11.
It's number 11.
Oh,
number 11.
Page 11.
All the way down to 11.
And I do know there will be some renumbering of articles.
We'll just call it by
But right
name,
now, it is number.
the unpaid bill article.
I'll make a motion to add this article to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I do have a question. It does say that it's not complete as a note here, so
That's what he just said.
yeah. No, I meant, no.
So we won't vote on it.
Yeah, you said that Article 11 still has more items to be added to it?
We are still checking with the North Carver Water District to see if there are any unpaid bills. We haven't heard back from them yet.
So we
it
can,
could be an addition to it.
so we can just recommend that article, the article be added to the warrant, but just not vote on it until it's complete?
Sure.
Okay.
So I think we have a motion and a second.
We did.
Yep, I made the
All
motion.
those in favor of adding Article 11 to the town warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. 5-0. All right.
It's Article 12, I guess.
Catch base, funding for the catch basin removal, Article 12.
Yep.
Motion to add it to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those favoring adding Article 12 to the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I guess, could you give me a little more background on this, Mr. Gannon?
Sure, the O&M staff, they go out and they clean the catch basins every year, and then they stockpile the debris. I'm not sure how many years they stockpile it for, but they don't dispose of it every year. They stockpile for a number of years, and then once it builds up, they do look for an article to dispose of, to get rid of the hollow and to dispose of it. The reason why they do that is they don't want to put money in the budget every year, for the year they have it, because they just be inflating their budget by $9,000 and not spending that. So they look for a separate article to this one item.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, so yeah, it has to be disposed of in a very certain particular way, because it's basically
Hazard.
toxic waste.
Toxic, yeah.
So that's probably why the cost is what it is.
And the funding from available funds, I'm assuming the only available funds is really free cash?
In reality, we free cash.
All right, so I guess we have a motion to approve in a second. Any other questions?
Do we know the last time it was done? It says approximately every 5 years, but do you know when it was last done?
I do not. I
Probably-
can find out.
Probably 5 years ago.
Might be good to know for town meeting.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 0. Let's see, home rule petition,
Yeah, 14. It's about 14 in here.
okay, 14, home rule petition to dissolve the North Carver Water District.
So moved.
All right.
To add to the warrant?
So we have a
I'll
motion
second
to
it.
add to the warrant and a second. All those in favor of adding it to the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. 5-0.
Motion to recommend?
Okay, we have a motion to recommend. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or issues or concerns about this article?
I have one quick question about this article. About halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through the article, there's wording about approaching Middleborough to provide water. Does everyone see where I'm talking about? I guess my question is, this article doesn't bind us to, for some reason, Middleborough. If for some reason Middleborough said, yes, sorry, we're not in position to be able to provide you with that water or whatever, we can do other things, or the town could do
Correct.
other sources, right? This doesn't bind us to Middleborough.
Correct, and what this is for is right now, Middleborough is providing us water under an emergency order. When that emergency order goes away, if we need to have Middleborough provide water in the future, they could just turn it back on again without having the emergency order from DEP. So it would allow them to turn it on and at our request shut it off. Again, they just don't have to keep going back to
I just wanted
DEP.
to make sure we had some flexibility in there, that's all.
Just a question,
Mr.
should
Ryan,
there
go
be
ahead.
two separate articles? Should there be a first article to, do the, dissolve the North Carver Water District, and then a second one separately to allow the board to enter into agreements for supplying water? Does that seem like it would make sense?
What, is there a reason to divide them?
They're two different topics, I guess. They're completely two different things.
I mean, this article was reviewed by council, correct?
Correct, it was
Yeah.
given to us by
Okay.
council.
I think they really go together.
Okay.
It's almost
Throwing
like
it
it
out.
ties it in, like Mark had said before, because it's so dissolve the North Carver Water District, it transfer its powers and duties to the Select Board, and further to authorize the Select Board to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Middleborough.
Right.
It sounds like one leads
the
in.
That's why I asked, that was my concern, that if for some reason we can't enter into that agreement, I just want to make sure we're not bound to that.
I think this lets us do it,
Yeah.
but we don't have to do it. Is that how you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my only concern.
I guess there needs to be also a bigger discussion from a standpoint of the Middleborough solution takes care of the residents. But don't we really have to, if this gets dissolved and we become the commissioners, we need a plan for both the residents as well as any commercial that's involved. And are we ready to come up with a plan for the commercial component of it?
I think that's the whole idea of dissolving it and letting it go to Middleborough to give us time to figure that out. That's my,
Yeah, and I also think depending on, long-term, we don't know what DEP and Middleborough, what their capacity is going to be, or they may find out they have capacity to do a lot more than we think they can do. So I don't think we know at that point, do we, Mr. Cannon? I don't,
At this point, we do not. So Middleborough had a willingness to provide us with water. They are limited by their DEP permit, which has not been expanded at this point. So they are providing water to all of our existing North Carver Water District customers, both residential and commercial. But we've had some discussion about potential future development and how we go about handling that. Again, I'll go back to this one. The first step of that is to do an engineering study of the existing North Carver water plant, which still hasn't been done. I think the town needs to take control of that so we can move those things forward. We need to have these answers, and we don't have those answers, and it's frustrating that we don't have the control to be able to provide you with those answers.
yeah, I agree.
I guess, and then if this was to pass at town meeting, before the select board could really do anything about it, it has to go through the process of getting what approved by the state.
Correct. Let's go up to the State House.
Could that be a year, 18 months? I mean, what, ballpark, a year?
I would say between 3 and 6 months.
Oh, okay.
I think the previous one we just had, took a little bit longer. We had some trouble with, our state senator was retiring, our state representative passed away.
Yeah.
We really didn't have somebody to kind of push the ball the way you normally do. I've seen other things go up to the State House and move a lot quicker. I would think with two freshmen, a freshman senator, a freshman representative, there's also eagerness that comes with that, so I think that would help us along, quite honestly.
Yeah, they usually come through like in November from a Springtown meeting.
Got it. All right, any other, so we've added to the warrant, and now we've got a motion, I guess, to approve.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 5-0. The investment trust funds?
Yeah.
Does anybody know what article that is? 15.
I'll make a motion to add the investment of trust funds to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or issues, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Make a motion to recommend.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0.
No questions? Kathy's free to go.
Yeah?
Oh, thanks.
It's all right, it's easier that way,
Yep.
right? She's here, no questions, she's not here to town.
I think 18, Article 18 Mullen Rule is next.
Article 18. Now, does this seem to come up every year?
Yes, it
I
does.
know, I was wondering about that.
All right.
We have our Muller rule expert here, so.
I'll make a motion to add the Mullen Rule to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adding Article 18 to the town warrant, say aye.
Don't you
Aye.
hear what Mr. Bott says?
Well, before we recommend
We're
it,
going to go
sure.
recommend, we're going to listen to what he says.
Okay.
So 5-0 to put on the warrant. All right.
Motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, issues, or concerns? Mr. Bott, would you please come up and just give us your thoughts on this?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm Tom Bottom, the town planner here in Carver, Mass. Yes, so the Mullen Rule applies to every adjudicating board in the town of Carver, anybody who grants a permit. So the Mullen Rule pertains to the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Board of Health, ZBA, and the planning board will be talking about this again in about an hour or so, or about a half an hour when I'm at the hearing at the school. But essentially what it allows a member of the board to do is miss a meeting. So if you miss a meeting, one meeting on an article, on an application, provided that you review a recording, audio or visual, and certify to the town clerk that you understand what happened in your absence, you're allowed to proceed and go along with the meeting. In the absence of the Mullen Rule, what oftentimes happens when a board is shorthanded, an applicant, particularly for a special permit, which needs a supermajority, 4 out of 5 votes, might say, no, we really don't want to proceed tonight because that person who isn't here won't be eligible to vote. So I need now 4 out of 4 votes for something like that. So the Mullen Rule provides some flexibility for the board and for the applicant and keeps things from getting jammed up and getting pushed, further and further along.
Great. Any questions from the board? Mr. Ryan?
So we have recommendations from the Board of Health, 2-1 and Conservation 3-1-1. That, I assume that's correct. And no recommendation from the Planning Board yet, is that?
Talking about it at 7 o'clock.
Okay. I guess as a board, does it matter if we don't have the recommendation? Would we?
We can have, it would apply to us as well, wouldn't it?
If you issue a permit, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it applies to us too.
Okay. So motion.
Yeah, and this has been, because it came from me previously, people got the impression this was just a planning board thing, but it provides for any adjudicating board in the town of Carver. It's common practice in most of the towns I've worked in, most of the towns I'm familiar with. It's just a tool to provide some flexibility to boards and applicants and make the process go a little less painful for everybody.
Mr. Ryan?
So we voted on this before. So what was the context? Does anybody recall? And
It
why
failed
is
at town meeting.
Oh, did it fail at town
No,
meeting?
actually, I wasn't at town meeting. I had COVID last year. I'm taking care of myself this year, so knock on fake wood that I'll be there. But I think the issue was if I'd been there last year to explain what this was, people would have, oh, that thing. But as I understand it, I wasn't at the meeting. Someone on the planning board said, well, yeah, what's this thing? And when in doubt, I don't know, it was even moved. I wasn't at the meeting, but
So So if town meeting did turn it down, what's the precedence, or
Bring it back.
I think that was
Is-
the reason.
is it okay to bring it back
There wasn't really
again?
someone to explain.
Okay,
Yeah.
This has been brought up a couple times,
I think so.
I think more than once.
not just one town meeting.
Yeah, I want to say 2006 or 16 was the first time I saw it, and it was a bifurcated article. The first part was about raising some fees, and the second part was about voting for the Mullen Rule, when people didn't want to raise fees, and that was voted down. I don't know there was a vote on the second part of the article. I think it just went down as failed.
Okay.
So sometimes whatever can go wrong will go wrong. If this gets implemented, and then who's the monitoring authority to make sure that someone, you go through a permitting process. And how many meetings do you have? 3, 4, 6, something like that, ballpark, say half a dozen. And someone misses 2 out of the 6, not just 1.
You miss 2, you're done.
Who,
You only get to miss 1
Yeah.
meeting for an application.
So if you miss 2, you just can't play.
If you miss 2, you can't vote.
If you miss 2, you can't vote.
Correct.
No matter how many
Okay,
times
and-
you look at the tape.
Okay, and it's the chairman's monitors it,
No,
I guess?
well, the staff monitors who's here and who's not here. So we keep a roll on who's here. And every time an applicant, particularly the planning board, comes up, and it's a special permit, or requires a 4/5 vote, I always make an announcement to the applicant, here's where you're at. Going forward, in the absence of the Mullen Rule, you'll need 100% of the votes from the planning board. Do you wish to proceed tonight, or do you wish to have a continuance to a future meeting? Oftentimes, the applicant asks for a continuance to a future meeting because they don't want to lock themselves into one less vote.
And your feeling is this expedites the permitting process?
It does, and it keeps the next meeting from being quite as full and long as it might be.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Just one. I notice, Mr. Bott, and perhaps you're unaware, that there were votes against this from both boards. What is the argument? It seems to make perfect sense to me that we would adopt this. What is the argument against it?
Well, I think in the case of, and I just got the information from my colleagues, I think in the case of the Board of Health, I think it was a 2-1 vote. One of the folks says, well, it'll be fine if I just had to read the minutes, but the minutes don't count. You've got to watch a recording.
Watch the meeting. Okay, thanks.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Do we make a motion to approve?
I thought we put
We
it on
made
the
a motion to
warrant.
put it on the
Motion-
warrant. but
motion to
I don't know
recommend.
that we voted.
So we have a motion to recommend and a second.
Mark the second.
Any other
Yep.
questions, issues or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 050.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Bott, are we ready for the amended zoning bylaw to increase the size of the lots?
I'm happy to talk about it if you like.
Has the planning board voted on that yet?
No, that's the meeting, that's the hearing in,
That's the last
It's
thing
a-
on the
Oh,
topic under this agenda item. I don't know if you want to talk about while Mr. Bott's here, or...
Take it out of order.
Hasn't
Yeah, may
voted
as
on
well.
it yet, so,
okay, so it's number
I mean-
31.
correct, article number 31.
Well, I'd be hesitant to add it to the warrant
Yeah.
without not knowing what the planning board did, but if you want to explain.
I'd like to be here when Mr. Bott is able to explain it to us, or to the viewers.
Sure. Do you feel comfortable explaining to us now?
certainly. So this is an article to increase lot size. So this is an article that was presented by one of the planning board members, and I had a little trouble finding where it was recommended. So as it says in the article, to see if the town will amend the Carver zoning bylaw to increase the lot size from 60,000 to 80,000 square feet, and to increase the frontage from 150 feet to 250 feet, in order to reduce overall development and protect resources as recommended in the 2001 Carver Master Plan. So that was from the 2001 Carver Master Plan. However, we have a 2017 Master Plan that doesn't recommend this particular action. And the reason why is because it was an idea from the 90s about large lot zoning will preserve our communities, and as it turns out, what it tends to do is raise the price of lots and raise the price of development, and makes housing more difficult to deal with. So in looking at this from our conversations last year I sent the planning board a memo on the 12th of March 2024. As I continue to research the matter about what is up with this increase of 200 to 80,000 square feet, and increasing the frontage. So in that research, I found documents from my predecessors in the master plan, appendix under a document by Marlene, my last name escapes me, who was the planner previously. They noted that in the summary of accomplishments going through the master plan process, that under the public education section for town meetings, that the increased lots to 2 acres failed. At the same time, in fact, I'm going to put these up on the screen if I can. This happens with an amazing increasing frequency. It's annoying. So I'm not going to put it on the screen, apparently.
Oh.
So in these documents that I looked at, a presentation by Jack Hunter as well in 2019 noted that this same issue, that the master plan had reviewed this and removed it as a goal for the master plan. There was also a 2008 memo from the planning board discussing the same manner. So, you know, in 2017, we adopted a new master plan, the 2017 master plan. It was voted at town meeting, and what folks had to say about it, it's a great effort, a great job by the master plan committee. In the recommendation, in the informal summary, it said the planning board's requesting the adoption of this goal to guide future growth and development. The master plan committee worked diligently with Serpent to craft a new master plan, and the planning board fully supports the policies therein. The chairman of the master plan committee, Will Sinclair, thanked everybody who participated and said they did a great job, and it's a great guide for the community moving forward. Well, this increase of lot size wasn't anywhere in that great guide. It was in the 2001 master plan. So to bring this up, you know, 25 years later just seemed a little odd to me. And I've been having this ongoing conversation with the planning board about, you know, why are we doing this? Some people seem to thought, well, it wasn't brought to town meeting, but it appears as though from all the documents I've found from the master plan, that it was brought forward and not moved by the planning board to submit to the warrant. From a plan from 2014 as they're working through the master plan, it's in there. And just recently, working through the open space plan, which we are dearly trying to complete, there's a policy in there about, in the open space and recreation plan, under the category not accomplished as of 2010, was to increase the minimum lot size to 2 acres, and it notes that this is no longer a goal. So this was a goal from 2001. This is 90s vintage zoning. This is a type of zoning that has fallen out of favor in the industry because it doesn't work, it doesn't produce what it's supposed to. And I think the town should be moving forward with the goals and the aspirations they developed in the 2017 master plan, and not something from the 2001 master plan. And we'll be having that conversation with the planning board. Hopefully they will concur, and we'll have a recommendation for this article.
Mr. Ryan?
So should we table this until the next meeting?
I think that would be
I
a
would
good
think so.
idea.
Ms. Hewens?
But I just wanted to, first of all, thank you, Mr. Bott. That was something that I was on those master plan committees both times, and as Mr. Bott pointed out, the vision that planning had in the 90s is very different from what happened in the 2000s when this thing called smart growth came along. And the idea was to conserve land, make streets shorter, put the houses a little more closely together in something called conservation subdivision. The houses cost a little more, you save more land, the builder likes it, the road's shorter, and you save some open space in the background. You give all that open space to individual landowners, it kind of, they can do with it whatever they want, which can be good or bad, so.
Okay.
And one of the things, the effect of this zoning change is the increase in zoning will make the rural and agricultural zone properties that have been created essentially since 1998 as legally existing non-conforming lots. And what does that mean to
Yeah,
a bunch
that's
of
the other
folks
point.
who go, what did he say? What that means is if you already have a house on your lot, then it's fine. But if you want to expand that house, you want to do an addition, you want to do something else, you may have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals because your property is now a legally existing non-conforming use. So an undeveloped lot with a minimum of 150 foot of frontage or a minimum of 60,000 square foot might be viewed as unbuildable without further relief, because the zoning was for 150 feet when you created this lot, so it becomes 200 feet. So I reached out to our assessor, who I know is in the room tonight, so he can correct me, as he oftentimes will if I misspeak. I asked Joe, I said, do you think there'll be any impact on taxes by increasing the lot sizes and frontage? He replied, well, presumably newly created lots would have a larger lot size and would sell for more, and there would be a higher assessed value. The second question I asked is, well, do you think the assessors might see an uptick in abatement requests, since many lots will become legally existing, non-conforming, and possibly decreasing the number of vacant lots that become less buildable? And Joe replied, yeah, I definitely think that if lots were suddenly made unbuildable, you might see a significant uptick in abatement applications. And he got on to say whether they're granted or not would depend on a market analysis. But it just seems like changing this zoning, which isn't the policy of the town of Carver, creates a lot of issues for the residents. It creates a lot of issues for the ZBA. It creates issues for the assessors potentially in the amount of work we have to do to process and discuss these sort of things moving forward. So as you can tell, I won't be recommending this to the planning board, and we'll be having the same conversation, like I said, in a few minutes. And happy to come back and talk about it after the planning board's hearings at some future date. Okay.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bott.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got, is it Articles 19 and 20 next?
Yes. Adjusted veteran exempt amount, Clause 22I. I'll move that be added to the warrant.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adding Article 19 to the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. Anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to recommend.
Second.
We have a motion to recommend and a second. Questions? Do we, Joe, was something you can talk about?
Yeah, I was going to say there's not
Mr.
a...
Rhodes is in the audience if you...
Right. I noticed the Board of Assessors did not recommend yet, so I just had a question on that.
I'm sorry, they should have recommended. They
they-
recommended both articles at their September 3rd, 2024 meeting.
So they took a vote?
To recommend.
Was it unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, we're just missing that information on the... Okay.
Whoops.
All right. Do you want to give us the rundown of what, because I'm a little bit confused by all this.
Sure, of course. So back last August, the HEROES Act passed. 2 new optional exemptions were created, Clause 22I and Clause 22J. Clause 22I allows the town to increase the exemption amount for all veterans exemptions by an annually determined COLA, which is determined by the Commissioner of Revenue. From 2010 to 2025, the average COLA was 2.6%, so it's not increasing the exemptions a lot. You're looking at increasing an exemption $10, $15 a year. Clause 22J allows municipalities to increase veterans exemptions by up to 100%. So that would apply to your Clause 22, 22A, 22B, C, and E exemptions, which range between $400 and $1,000. In 2024, the town granted $71,950 worth of those exemptions to 113 veterans. Assuming there was a 100% increase, that would have been $143,900. It would just double the exemption amount.
So obviously, if this gets exempted, that means that the tax the tax that the town receives doesn't get reduced, it's just passed on to everyone else.
That's correct. So it would get paid for out of the overlay. So the overlay pays for abatements. We know people's homes are overvalued or there's an issue with the tax bill. The main thing that the overlay covers is exemptions. So these exemptions come off of their February and May tax bills. They would get a reduced amount and it would come out of the overlay. We are reimbursed by the state for a lot of these exemptions. Like I said, in FY24, we granted round numbers, 71,000. We received a reimbursement of 50,000. Because these are optional, local options, you don't get additional reimbursement. You'd be reimbursed at the same level.
So 22J keeps the same exemptions that currently exist, but puts a COLA on them.
22I adds a
22I.
COLA.
Yeah.
22J, you can up to double it. The Board of Assessors recommended a 100% increase in the exemptions.
All right, so first one on 22J, are there any
Aye.
questions?
We're on 22I
Keep saying
first.
J. 22I.
Did we make a motion already to approve? or to?
Motion
We did,
to
okay.
add it to,
Add it to the warrant.
We already voted on
We
that,
did.
but then I
Mo-
think we,
I think I made a motion to approve.
And then you made a
and I think
motion
it was
to approve.
seconded by
motion
Did
to
we?
recommend, okay, second.
Okay.
Recommend, yeah, thank you.
We have a motion to recommend, is there a second?
it was.
Okay. All right, any other questions, issues, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 And I'll make a
Opposed, zero.
motion to, I'll make a motion to add optional additional veteran exemption clause 22J to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of adding Article 20 to the warrant, say aye.
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 And motion to recommend?
So, second.
We have a motion to recommend, and we have a second. Are there any questions, issues, or concerns?
So we were saying this brings it up to 100%. Do you just want to
Exactly.
go over that real quick? So what does that mean in terms of 100%?
So in order to qualify for a veteran's exemption, an applicant has to have lived in Carver for 1 year and have a 10% service-connected disability. So a 10% disability gets you a Clause 22, which is $400. You adopt 22J, that $400 exemption is $800. In between, there's a $750 exemption that's based off of, I believe, the loss of use of a limb. That $750 goes to $1,500. If you're 100% disabled or permanently unemployable, you currently get a 22E at $1,000. That would be doubled to $2,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so what I wasn't getting was, this is for only disabled veterans, not all veterans.
Correct.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just one
Mr.
question. Joe, it says the town shall grant the additional tax exemption. Who specifically grants that exemption, the assessors or the select board?
The assessors. Applications are made in the same way they are now. Applications are due every year by April 1st, so if you haven't done it, file. So people apply July through April 1st. The exemptions applied to their February and May tax bill. The Board of Assessors reviews the applications annually.
So you want to change that to Board of Assessors?
I think it would clarify.
So we'd like to amend it to Board of Assessors?
Well, it's just an informational summary.
Oh, in the information, just add it to
Yeah,
it?
it just says the town.
That's fine,
I think it'd
okay.
be clearer if it says the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, it
Board of
would.
Assessors.
All right.
And in this case, with regards to J, there is no reimbursement for the increase in the exemption?
22I and J, they're local options. So any local option that you adopt, anytime you raise an exemption above the state minimum. So 2 or 3 years ago, we increased the widow's exemption and the elderly exemption. So those increases were still reimbursed at that same percentage of the exemption. Because we went and raised it, that's great of the town, we're generous, but the state isn't.
Okay, got it.
So we get reimbursed at the original?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan?
Was that also a unanimous recommendation by the Board of Assessors?
These both are.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion, and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. guess, Joe, you might as well stay up here.
I figured.
Pilots.
All right, is this the payment lieu, is that 21? or-
Yes.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to add the pilot agreements to the warrant, Article 21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add Article 21 to the warrant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to recommend?
We have a motion to recommend. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, issues, or concerns? Mr. Ryan?
So if we're going to vote on this at town meeting, the one thing I was, again, I'll bring this up, we don't have to do it, but would we want to separate the solar from the battery as two different articles? Would that make sense for discussion purposes? Because there's probably going to be discussion on the battery pilot. So does that make any sense, or do we think we want to just leave them all lumped together? That's my first question.
It's a good question.
I don't have a problem with splitting.
Will be the recommendation of,
That's up to you guys. It's
Okay.
your warrant.
all right,
I think it makes sense to split it.
it does,
I think
okay.
it makes sense to split it.
Okay.
And as far as,
Do we need a motion to do that, or can we?
Well, hang on. Let's, Mr. Cannon, what do you think?
Well, I would agree. I think it probably makes sense to.
Okay.
This way.
split them? All right, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move that the article, the pilot, be split into two articles, one for the solar and one for the battery energy.
We have a motion, to have a second? Motion and second, all those in favor of splitting battery storage from the other solar articles, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 5-0. All right, so we've added them to the warrant. Did we make a motion to approve?
We did, so maybe we need a motion to approve just the solar one
Yeah.
first.
Motion to approve part for the solar?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, issues, concerns? Mr. Ryan?
Do we have a summary on the amounts? The schedule? Thank you.
Thanks.
And these agreements are the new agreements, all the same, right?
Thank you.
So if you turn to the second page, it gives a summary of all of the pilot agreements. These are all still in draft form. They're, probably 90% complete. We're working with two companies. There's 4 projects overall, but they're really split between 2 development companies, so it's wrapping up kind of quickly. Just running down the list, Article 23-A is REDP Godfrey, that's at 13A Gate Street. All of these solar developments are already built. In FY '26, it would generate $58,712 in revenue, run from FY '26 to 2041. The next 2 projects, B and C, are on land owned by 80 Makepeace at 37 Rear Wyndham Road, 1.348 megawatts DC, running from 26 to 2045. FY '26 generate 25,608 in revenue. The canopy project, there's a ground mounted and a canopy over canals, would run for the same time period and generate 46,616 in revenue for FY '26. Ward, you'll notice, is for a shorter time period. This is one of those agreements that was signed 2019, 2020, where they were all wrong. It included land, it's at the appellate tax board, so this is being renegotiated as part of an ATB settlement. So the pilot amount is coming down from what we're receiving now, because we are billing in the pilot real and personal property, and then we're also billing real estate under the panels. So we're double billing real estate. So the pilot's going to go down by the amount of the real estate tax in the panel, in the pilot agreement. When we extend them. This pilot was originally going to run through 2039. Because we're renegotiating it, we were able to tack on some additional years, keep the same schedule, less the real estate, and add in a 2.5% escalator. And then you have Cranberry Point, 31 Main Street, owned by Weston Realty Trust B. It would run from FY26 to FY2045. FY26 revenue would be $1,915,849. If you add all of these pilots together, FY26 revenue is $2,094,216.27. So I can answer questions about any of them in particular.
Mr. Ryan?
So based on the law changes, how does this pilot money now show up and get accounted
It's
for?
still how it was. It's still page 3, local receipts,
So-
not a committed revenue, not picked up as new growth, not in the tax levy.
So it'll come in as local receipts,
That's the plan.
okay, which translates to, it could be picked up in the operating budget unless we do something different.
Well, I think similar to this year's budget, I think it's $94,000 that we've got a solar project coming on,
Correct.
and I think it's being reduced from operating receipts.
Correct.
Yeah, 97,
Yeah, 97,
97,000.
I was,
So I think I gotta go by memory, that the policy was these prior solar projects that are now in the levy, I guess are gonna stay, and anything after July 2024, I think, right?
That was that amended policy 3F, which I
Yeah.
think you approved everything apart from 3F.
That'll be one of our next meetings, going at 3F. So to answer your point, it would carve out these as being not in the operating budget.
So we'll have that at a future meeting where we'll discuss how do we carve this and put it into whatever accounts, stabilization funds, et cetera, that we want to, so that'll, okay, great.
correct.
All right?
All right.
We did have the discussion once. There were some recommended edits to it, so we took it back off the table, but we'll bring it back.
Great. Okay.
All right, so, and there's also still, even when we talk about this personal property pilot programs, there's still an underlying real estate component that goes
Correct. So
into new growth.
payment
There
in
is-
lieu of tax agreements only cover personal property. The underlying real estate for solar farms, there is no real estate fixture, so it's only the value increase to the raw land based on the land lease. For Cranberry Point, obviously, you have significant foundations and groundwork and site work. So 58.3% of the value of the project is personal property. The remaining 41.7% will be picked up as real estate, and there's no way around that. You have to value the real estate. So that 41.7% will be picked up, added to the levy, and be claimed as new growth.
Okay, and these new revised solar projects have the same thing, we're allowed to put liens, and,
Exactly. So these new pilot agreements, they all run for 20 years. They all escalate at 2.5% annually. They all start right around in the ballpark of 19,000 a megawatt, plus or minus a little bit based on cost. They're all valued using the cost approach, which is how you value personal property, which is you have your original cost less depreciation to your residual value. Pilot agreements are not a tax break in any way, shape, or form. They have to approximate fair cash value over the life of the agreement, coming between 90 and 110% of what you would collect. So with all of these, we're right in that 97 to 103%. What do we think we would collect over 20 years? And that's where we're at with these. So they don't get a discount. It provides added protection to the town and making them more collectible. And it, limits personal property going into the levy that has a finite life.
great. Any other questions from the board? And have these deals been signed yet? by the other
None of these have
parties?
been signed. So 2 or 3 years ago, there was a warrant article that authorized, you have to designate an authorized officer to sign pilot agreements. Historically, they've just been signed by the select board. In '23, we changed it, so it's the select board, the town manager, and the board of assessors. So at least all the people who deal with them are in the loop. So they'll go to town meeting. The developer will have signed them in advance of town meeting. They'll be held in escrow. Hard copies will be available in the town clerk's office if anybody wants to review them. Following town meeting approval, you guys sign them, the Board of Assessors signs them, Glenn signs them, and then council would sign them.
Questions, Ms. Hewens?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that, as Joe was saying, these are not tax breaks. Originally, we decided to use these because at one point the state was thinking about exempting solar projects from taxes. And so this kind of locks it in, and it escalates, so that's a good thing.
Exactly. You get increasing revenue out of a depreciating asset, so.
Exactly.
Normally, you have a vending machine, that's personal property.
Yeah.
You're gonna get less money every year in taxes
Yeah.
on that vending machine. Same thing with the solar farm and the levy.
Right.
So this, you get more money every year for 20 years, and it's a good deal for the town.
It's a good deal for the town.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving
It's the solar pilots.
Part A.
Part A, solar, that's Part A, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 0.
So I'll make a motion to approve the battery storage pilot.
Is this a recommend?
Yeah.
To recommend, yes.
Second.
A motion to recommend and second for the battery solar, which I guess would be B.
Article, it'll be a separate article.
Yeah. Motion, any other questions, issues or concerns?
Good question.
Sure.
They voted on these.
So the Cranberry Point. So what we're recommending is the pilot will be 1.9 million for the 26 revenue.
Exactly, so, in part of the negotiations, all the other agreements go up 2.5% every year. We started at a rate of 10,000 megawatts AC. When you look at the other pilot agreements that are signed in the state for projects that aren't built, they're at 7,000, 8,000, and there's no escalator built in at all. They're kind of terrible agreements. We're starting at 10,000 a megawatt. We did the 2.5% every year. The developer, most likely in making it easier to potentially sell years down the road, wanted flat payments. So we did the escalation and then did flat payments over the 20 years. So it's built in, so your payment for 20 years would be the $1,915,849. Over the life of the agreement, it'd be $38,316,980.
So the escalator was figured in, but then we just took the average.
Average.
Exactly.
Still pretty good every year.
I think it gets better because what would also the real estate component be to this?
Right.
So, the project was roughly 200 million. So 41% of that's about 80 million in value. I don't have the calculator in front of me, but 80 million divided by 1,000, our tax rate's $21.
I remember a $1.7 million number.
It's something like that, if you're at 1.9 and that's 60%,
Yeah, which.
you're in that
we-
ballpark. You're over $1 million for the real
We
estate.
talked about this in the beginning of the budget process, is we really need to come up with a plan to make sure we use these funds wisely. So it's just something to think about. All right, I'm sorry, you have more questions?
No, I mean, obviously it's going to attract a lot of attention at town meeting, and that's why I just want to make it clear, like Sarah had said earlier, this isn't a tax break. In fact, this escalator, there's a 2.5% escalator, it's just figured in. Just want to make sure everybody understands that.
one of the key benefits to this is with looking at Ward Solar 1, for example, that's a pending agreement or an existing agreement. It's at the appellate tax board. There's outstanding overlay liability associated with that. You have to maintain a larger overlay balance. With these new agreements, they waive the right to an appeal. They waive the right to an appeal. We'll do a motion to dismiss if they do appeal. And in the event that they do appeal, even though they say they won't, we will charge 150% omitted and revised bill of what they would have paid in that year. So it really protects you from having to go out and get an appraiser every year to defend
Right.
it, and pay 20 grand a year and go to court and bring in expert witnesses to defend it. That's probably one of the main benefits for the town.
So it brings up a good point. So this gets approved and then they decide not to pay it.
Personal property, we've talked about this before, it's an unsecured collectible, so these agreements establish a lien on all of these projects, a UCC lien. Better than it would be, not excellent. Personal property, just as a result of what it is, isn't an excellent revenue source because it's not secured collections. This is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you mentioned that one of the reasons why, because questions I asked at prior meetings was, if I'm the other party, why do I want to do these pilot programs? And Joe said earlier, they typically do a significant amount of financing with these things, and they want to show that there's a steady known number every single year, so it's a benefit to them as well.
Exactly, and these flip hands all the time, especially the solar farms after a couple of years
We've
once
had
the
a few
credits
changes
run
already,
out.
haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, Ward Solar 1, somebody called me today and they were asking about it. I was like, who are you guys? New owners. Had no idea, but they sold it again.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions, issues or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of the, what article is it?
Part B.
Part B, for battery solar, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 0, 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. What's the next one?
The wetlands one, right?
Is that 25?
22, I think. Yeah, we're on number 22.
Yeah, number 22.
The adding a cranberry bog. You didn't do that before?
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we add the amendment to the wetlands bylaw for the cranberry bog to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 0. Would anyone make a motion to approve Article 22?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, issues, or concerns?
Can we hear from
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Feel free.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here. There are a couple of articles that Conservation is putting in. 3 of them are all related. And the first one is adding the definition of a cranberry bog to our current wetlands bylaws. The bylaw that we want to add defines a cranberry bog as any area where cranberries have been grown, are currently grown or have been grown within the last 10 years, regardless of whether the land on which the cranberries are grown was a wetland bog or an upland bog. And what that does, it expands the amount of area that will be protected for the most part in Carver. This was born from a couple of projects that came before us where cranberry bogs that have been re-diagrammed, so to speak, included some wetland bogs, but another part of it were upland bogs, and there was no real way of telling what was what without doing tons of borings to try to find out where the actual wetland bog ended and where the upland bog began. So because over the course of time, upland bogs take on the same characteristics as a wetland bog, it is our opinion that we should just make every cranberry bog in Carver be considered as a wetland, and therefore subject to all of the wetland protection bylaws that we have in place here regarding buffer zones and what's buildable, what's not buildable, and what requires variances.
Sealants.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, so just to go back a little bit historically, years ago when I was the conservation agent, what we did was we hired a wetlands consultant to discern whether a bog was an upland bog or a wetland bog. And there is a difference over time. They're not the same over time. So a bog that's really been built in upland, when you stop putting water through it, it goes back to being an upland bog. And you can see it in the lack of mottles and striations in the soil. I'm just saying this to you because I think you're going to have trouble with the state regulations. First of all, they only look at the vegetation, which is unfortunate. But if you look at the soils, there's a clear difference between the two. And so the soils determine the vegetation. And once it's reverted back to an upland, you don't see the striations in the soil anymore that you would, the mottles, whatever you want to call them, that you would in a wetland. And so it's going to be growing different plants. So just a little heads up, in my opinion, that's going to cause a few eyebrows to wonder what's going on.
At the state level.
I believe so, because as I said, when we would have, I think we had about 3 or 4 of those cases, and each time we called a soil scientist in from NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, out of the USDA office, and they would look at it and dig down. We'd see the soils. We'd say, okay, yeah, this is definitely a wetland bog. This one is an upland bog. And of course, a lot of times people were hoping they would be upland bogs so they could build on them. And it was kind of 50-50. Half of them were, half of them weren't. Then the DEP would come in and make the determination based solely on the vegetation. And so maybe I would say it tended to be the same as our determination, but I'm just saying that they do become different things. The wetland bogs pretty much stay wet, and the upland bogs do dry out once you stop putting the irrigation in. And I think you're going to find the vegetation changes, which is their standard, the state standard.
Well, this is not really designed for standalone upland bogs, but would include them. This is for what the current growers are doing, where they're taking their original oddly shaped bogs and squaring them off, where now only a portion of it is upland and another portion is wetland. And having to determine where exactly that line is throughout an entire bog is extremely expensive and creates a gray area in how we as the Conservation Commission have to act. A good case in point was the 3 homes that were built on South Main Street at the corner of Lakeview. The bog behind those 3 homes was determined to be an upland bog. However, research found that within that upland bog, back in the 40s and 50s, there were 3 embedded wetlands bogs. And there was no way really to find out where the border was without doing bores every 5 feet throughout the entire bog to find out where the wetlands stopped and where the upland began. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate a gray area. We're trying to create more protection for wetlands in general for Carver, and make it so that our job as the Conservation Commission is easier, make it easier for developers to determine what they can and can't do before they spend money to come in front of us. So that's basically what we're putting this in front of the town for, to
No, and I understand that. I'm simply trying to point out that I think I can't speak for the agricultural community, but I suspect that if the bog is in use, if it's currently in use, it's a wetland bog. Because it gets water, table goes up, goes down, goes up. You would only have that difficulty, I would think, if you were looking at an abandoned bog or a bog in disrepair. But
Well, that's why we have in there the caveat about 10 years. You know, anything over the 10 years has not been harvested, that goes away. So we're figuring that if a bog is left fallow and is in fact an upland bog, within 10 years that whatever attributes it had sort of as a wetland would dissipate.
yeah, okay. I see what you're doing. Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Ryan?
I think it was partially answered. I was just trying to understand between the wetland and the upland bog what the impact was to the bylaw, and I think that was explained because there's a gray area and there's an expense to trying to distinguish the difference, but in terms of the bylaw, you're just trying to set them the same so that they're treated the same in the bylaws. Any feedback from the cranberry bog owners on these yet, or what do you
Not yet,
expect?
no, I don't know. We have not brought this to their attention.
Okay.
We've had our public hearing for it, and we've been on now Area 58. We've discussed it on a couple of meetings, so it's public knowledge, it's been out there. But we haven't had any feedback as far as I know, and I don't believe that our conservation agent has had any either. This is basically just to, our feeling as a commission, and we're unanimous in that, is that a cranberry bog is a cranberry bog, and therefore should be protected and should have the same protections that every other wetland in town does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions, issues, or concerns?
Now, is this one part
So we're doing Article 22
I know.
first.
Part 1?
It's just Article 20, Part 1 is the only, well, that's actually in Part 1 and Part 3, because cranberry bog was added to both.
That's what I'm
1 and
asking
3.
the chair. Is it Part 1 and 3, or
Yes.
just Part 1?
1 and 3, that we made the motion to approve.
Right now, it's just, we have
Recommend.
1 and 3, 1 and 3. Yes, so this is Article 2, 1 and 3.
I'm not sure exactly what you were looking at. There were three things that were related. One of them is creating the cranberry bog in the definition section of the bylaws. The other two are adding the word cranberry bog into the areas that we have jurisdiction over, in both the 100-foot buffer that requires our permission and the 65-foot buffer which requires a variance.
Right, so Part 1 of this article we're voting on is the definition.
Okay.
And then Part 3, which is how it's numbered here, is including it in the 65-foot.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
fine. I just have them as
I know,
individual
that's-
I don't see
articles.
the definition in this. I just see the two
That's
additions.
number 1. Well, it's defining it as as a wetland, along with the rest of these things. You probably changed the definition section, right?
That's down below.
That-
That's
that-
another article.
That's
Right,
that's
that's-
another article.
that's
That's
later
really,
on.
Okay.
that's really the first one.
Right.
That should be first, creating the definition of the cranberry bog. The other two
So we
are
may-
adding it to the existing
that makes
list of
sense. So-
areas that follow our jurisdiction.
Do we need a motion to switch the order of these, or you'll just
Yeah, I
switch
think
them?
Elaine got that. yeah.
So-
The definition,
Definition
the
should come first.
definition should come first,
Should be
because the
first.
other is, if the definition is not approved, then the other two become
Don't
moot.
make
Right,
sense.
right. So-
I thought of that, too.
That's a good point. So the first one, actually, I see now, is within 100 feet, and the second one is within 65.
Yeah, one is for permission, the other is for the variance, but the definition, creating the definition and adding it to the bylaws comes first.
First, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
So I'll move that Article 23, amend Wetlands Bylaw, Section 1C, jurisdiction to add reference for land and use, land and agricultural use be added to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions?
My only question, and Mr. Moore, I'm sorry you don't actually have a copy of this in front of you, because...
I may. I have,
Okay, so under Article 23, numbers 2 and number 3...
I don't have the article number section, so,
It's on the warrant, I'm sorry, it's in the warrant package, I'm sorry, in the Select Board package, meeting package.
okay.
Mr. Hughes, this first vote is just to put it on the warrant, then we can
Yes.
have the vote to explain everything.
I understand. He's trying to find it on
Okay.
his phone.
I could,
I have the 5 articles that were,
Anyway,
were submitted.
number 2 and 3 read exactly the same, as far as I can
Oh, that's what
tell.
you're saying.
They both say they're built to, no person shall remove, fill, dredge, alter, or build upon within 200 feet on each side of perennial rivers and streams. One says and streams, the other says or streams. But I'm reading that those are exactly the same.
Yeah, they seem to be. I agree.
And maybe, I understand that it's both in except as provided or is exempted as land and ag use. And that's why number 4, which is talking about within 65 feet, is different from the one we just voted on, because this is talking about the exemption of the land being in agricultural use. So I get that too. I was just wondering if 2 and 3 was a typo.
it may be. It
That's
may be a
all.
mistake.
it might be, I see what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Do we need it?
It's not a big deal. Just wondered if I was missing something.
This is a separate article from the other 3 regarding cranberry bogs.
Yes.
All right, I can explain this one. And it may in fact be a typo. This was
fine.
pulled directly from our previous bylaws. This particular correction was brought to us by a number of applicants who basically came to us and said, what happened to this language? It used to be in your bylaws. And we went back and we looked, and it seemed that somewhere around 2020, it disappeared from our bylaws, and we don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either.
It wasn't voted on in town meeting, they just disappeared.
I can guess, but I won't go into it right now.
Well, anyway, this was just to put that language back. Even though it's in the state regulations, this was to put the language back in our regulations so people looking at it see it's still here.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, so this was just, I think Ms. Dayhill has identified other situations where when the town bylaws were updated, that things somehow went away.
Yeah.
A couple of things here and there. So we think that may be what happened here. Anyway, that is just putting back what was existing before and somehow disappeared, that we didn't notice, but our applicants did.
Sure. And that probably is the same for number 4.
Yes. Yeah, 2, 3, and 4 were the places that it used to be and disappeared from, and now we just want to put it back.
So maybe it's not a typo, 2 and 3.
It
Maybe
could
they
be.
appear twice somewhere. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking now that I'm seeing it.
Okay, so we have a
Motion to recommend,
well, first of all, put it on.
a motion to put it on the warrant.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of adding Article 23 to the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 0. Anyone like to make a motion to approve Article 23?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second. I
We have a
do.
motion, and we have a second.
To recommend.
To recommend. Any other? Oh, stop.
So 2 and 3 are identical. Should we wait to find out if
That was going to be
Well-
my question. Should we, or
Yeah, I
ask
think-
that they be corrected?
What Savory is suggesting is that it could be 2 different sentences in 2 different parts of the bylaw? Is that what you're?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. It's probably one is for the 100-foot buffer and one's for the 65, or one is just, I can ask Emil to get to the bottom of that. He pulled it from the 2019 bylaws
Right.
that had it in there and just put it back where it was before.
Okay. Does that make sense? So if it was meant to be this way, it'll stay, and if it's not, if it's just a typo, either 2 or 3 will disappear.
Yeah, we can get to the bottom of that and find that out. But I was aware that it was in 3 places. that it disappeared from, so.
Okay.
So I am looking at 3 right now. It's a different paragraph, so it probably was,
Yeah.
because it says, except as permitted by the commission through the issuance of a variance as defined in section 28-5, that's supposed to be what 3 is. So I think probably the article needs to be
All right,
redone.
we'll take a look at it. I'll ask Emil to take a look at it, but I know that there were 3 places that it disappeared from, and I'm thinking that maybe not the entire paragraph was included in this, that would differentiate between 2 and 3.
All right, so I guess we had a motion. I guess would someone like to withdraw that motion and table this article?
We should probably, you want to wait till it's in its...
If it's a typo, they're going to fix it, and if it's not, they'll explain to town meeting that it's different. I'm fine with respecting the commission's,
Yeah, the paragraph in this
Decision.
article is wrong. I just looked it up, so I can tell you that there are 2 different paragraphs. It was just repeated by accident, so the actual paragraph 3 is incorrect, so it has to be,
Okay,
it
all
should
right.
be fixed.
so we'll X that out and vote on the rest.
Okay.
I mean, I think,
Or we could just wait till the
I
next
would like
meeting
to
and
wait
vote
till
on
the
the
next
correct
meeting.
wording,
Yeah,
which
and
maybe...
just see
I
it
think
all
so.
up front.
Yeah, let's get the
I
right
would prefer
article.
that you
Yeah.
wait and vote on the correct one.
Be easy
Should
enough
we
to do.
rescind putting it
I'll
on?
rescind my second of the...
Okay,
I'll rescind the motion.
all right.
Okay.
So we voted to put this on the warrant, and I guess you'll go back to your,
Yeah, we're meeting on, not tomorrow night, a week from tomorrow, so we'll correct it and get it back in front of you. That's okay. Elaine, does that work?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
okay. So I think, is that it for the,
So did we vote to rescind
There's
that?
one more.
Putting it on?
do we need
But
to
we
vote?
didn't do an all in favor.
Yeah, we just
Okay.
rescinded the motion. We never,
Do we need to vote on?
I don't think so.
I don't think
No,
so.
we
Okay.
we're just going to leave it for the next meeting.
Yep, that's all we're gonna do.
Would you agree, Mr. Cannon? There's no vote required there, right?
I don't think it...
Yeah, we didn't vote anyway, so just rescind it. Okay.
So I'll move Article 24, amend Section 4 wetland bylaw fines be added to the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, 0. Anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll move.
So
that we-
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, issues, or concerns?
I see that's just changing the fine from $50 to $100 a day?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all that article's doing?
Yeah, just to be a little bit more forceful.
Okay.
$50 became a drop in the bucket for a lot of people, so we're just hoping that this may be a little bit of a deterrent.
All right.
Okay.
Any questions?
No?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, 0.
And I'll move that Article 25, with the definition of a cranberry bog, be added to the town warrant above the other articles.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0.
And I'll make a motion to approve the new definition of the cranberry bog.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or issues or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0.
I think that's it, right?
Should do it.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get you
Have a
this
good night.
corrected one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next item on the list, the approval of KP Law Town Council rate increase for fiscal year 2026. Mr. Gannon, would you like to give us some background on this?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, it is an increase of $10 per hour, up to $250 per hour, $255 per hour, I'm sorry. Town councils, see, it seems reasonable to me, honestly, you know, the price of inflation, the price of wages going up.
Are there any questions from the board, or would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to
KP Law
approve.
Firm?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for purpose of discussion. Anybody have any questions?
I guess for discussion, this is the only rate that's being increased. The others are all staying flat. Is that true?
As of right now.
Okay.
So I get 2 questions. One is, we seem to get a price increase every year now. What is the effect on the budget, if any? Has this been put into the 2026 budget?
This has not been, as of now, Mr. Chairman. I believe that the legal budget is adequate to cover these extra costs. We haven't, gone up against that yet. I'd say it's primarily due to the number of lawsuits that you have. It's usually where the rate jacks up the budget, going to court. So far, we're under budget for the current fiscal year. I think we could absorb the $10 per hour.
And I forget, there's layered rates. Is this the general rate? Right, there's different specialities, right?
Correct. This is the general
definition.
town council.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 4-1. Okay. Next, we have the American Rescue Plan Act update.
So for the ARPA update, similar to last time, you have the Carver Middle High School mechanical system that is still ongoing. It is anticipated to be completed over April vacation break. So they will work on it again during February vacation break, and then April it should be completed. The municipal well corrosion project is moving right along. That is 75% complete. And they are actually still waiting for a part on that, unfortunately, but they are anticipating the completion in March. The decommissioning of 22 private wells. This amount that has been spent to date has not changed. They have done a few more wells. We're just waiting for the invoice from the contractor. So that will update by the next meeting with an additional amount spent. And the health agent is working with the DEP to try to get some sort of enforcement for it to get completed. The Council on Aging deck is moving along. The work was supposed to begin this week, weather dependent, so hopefully that will get started. I don't know I think it's supposed to snow tonight, so we'll see. It's been a tough month. The generator for Town Hall, we are still awaiting delivery for the generator. We currently have no ETA on that. The purchase of the UTV for the fire department, so the contract was signed. Delivery is anticipated by June. Some money has been spent on that. What has been completed is the receipt of the basket stretcher as well as the equipment, the additional equipment that goes on it. And the next item is the electric vehicle for the conservation agent and building commissioner. So it did arrive at the dealership, and now we're just processing the paperwork on that. And hopefully we'll get that in the next week or two. And another project will drop off here, the police new hires. As you know, you had the new hires that started already. So this $19,000, the chief has confirmed, has been spent. So one more project dropping off, which is a good sign.
Can I ask a question about the town generator? The old town generator, is that somehow a trade-in, or what happens to that? Do we know?
I don't think it's a trade-in. Do you know?
No, we'd have to discussion with our O&M director, see what the plan would be for that.
So it's just old?
It is just old, but they do sometimes have significant value, even though years old.
Could we use it at another building?
Well, that'd be the first thing we'd be looking at. Whether we could reuse it, or even be a spare,
Okay.
I know, again, when I was in the town of Bourne, we had the outage for 4 days. Sometimes when you crank up that generator after the first 24 hours, that generator burnt out on us. You never run a 24-hour test until you have an emergency, and then come to find out you can't handle the load. So
Okay.
sometimes it's good to have that spare.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions on the opera update? Anybody? No? All right, town administrator updates.
Sure, a few quick updates here, Mr. Chairman. I do see the fire department has 6 new recruits. They did their recruiting, I believe it was last fall. They selected 6 candidates to enter into the training. They go through a vigorous training with a graduation date, hopefully all 6, Saturday, April 5th. So 6 new recruits all trained there. Also, the safety personnel, that's the EMS, police and fire. They also have new defibrillators. These comes out of the opioid mitigation funds that the town has received through a class action lawsuit that was filed a number of years ago. But it's good to see that those things are coming forward without the cost to the additional town budget, so I like that. I know the governor had a municipal empowerment act moving forward. I thought it might be of interest to the board. I see part of that is updates on enforcement to mechanics for double pole violations.
Yes, I saw that.
I believe Senator Doomer and Representative Gasky might be coming to a March meeting here at the select board, and maybe we'll get an update on what we can do about those double poles and maybe some real teeth to those violations.
Sure.
If you remember when the representatives were here from Eversource, I don't believe we actually had any teeth to move that process along a little bit quicker. I do want to give the board an update on the library situation. I think the board is well aware, very frustrating. Have a new HVAC system, only about 8 months old. We had a condenser malfunction. That condenser had to be ordered, took about a week. On really cold days, we certainly had to close the library. The existing system couldn't keep up. Staff was very difficult situation for them. And the patrons didn't seem to mind too much. People weren't coming in and visiting with the library. They was kind of grabbing books and running out, but it was the staff who really kind of suffered for it. Now, unfortunately, the new condenser has come in. The new condenser was installed. To be installed, you have to remove all the coolant, the refrigerant from the existing system. You put in the new condenser, and then they tested the new system before they put the coolant back in, and unfortunately they found a leak in the system, so they have to repair that leak. So the condenser is installed, but they do not have the new heating system right now running. The replacement parts for the leaks are coming in tomorrow, and then it does take some time. Hopefully that condenser will be up and running tomorrow, the system will be up and running. It does take some time to reheat the entire building. So hopefully by Thursday we'll have heat back in the building. I will also tell you that, I believe the board is aware, we had temporary heaters in the building also to warm up the building. They were tripping the breakers. We found a couple of faulty breakers. Hopefully they're going to be repaired tomorrow also. So we'll be able to have those temporary heaters back in there. And again, unfortunately the library will be closed again tomorrow because of the heat, but hopefully on Thursday we'll be back to full operation. I know it's been frustrating. I will tell you the condenser is under warranty. It has a 10-year warranty, but still very, very frustrating,
Mr. Cannon, just so we're clear, this failure had nothing to do with maintenance issues or anything like that over there, right? It was just a new system where a part failed.
Correct. Unfortunately, a brand new faulty condenser. So it's certainly no fault of town staff. And again, I believe the contractor did the best he could too. Also, you're taking the item right out of the box. It's brand new. You don't expect it to fail within 8 months. Especially when you're putting a 10-year warranty on it.
Yeah.
It's costing them money too. They've had to come back here a number of times now. Thank you.
So my question is, and I never assumed it was any fault with the town departments here, but are we having to pay for this new condenser?
No, we are not. It is under warranty. The services are under warranty. But again, it's the frustration of having to close it. It's frustration for our residents. When we try to get the word out, I don't know how many people are going over there and, take time out of your day to walk over there and then all of a sudden the door's closed. It's very frustrating.
It's very frustrating. And some of us run a program over there. And those big heating outfits were horrible. It scared the kids.
I did hear that. It's not a good optimal condition.
No.
So just to kind of piggyback on the cost component, obviously it's inconvenienced everyone, and I know that town staff's going to do everything they can. But when you said that the condenser went, obviously it's under warranty, but then you talked a little bit about when you got it up and running, there was a leak. So is all this under warranty? Is there no cost to the town to get this completely fixed?
Correct, completely fixed. I do want to say that I believe the breakers are our responsibility. So the breakers for the heaters is existing electrical system. That's a town responsibility, but replacing a breaker is a lot different than replacing the condenser.
But that breakers had nothing to do with the new heating system that
it was the-
failed. That was the space heaters that we had.
temporary-
Correct, it was the space heaters, yeah. Nothing to do with the new
These were
condenser.
huge space heaters. It made a lot of noise.
Okay. Thank you.
And then on the agenda is the update on the municipal well and services of town water. Again, unfortunately, on Monday, February 3rd, at approximately 5 o'clock, there was an issue with the municipal well, which supplies the water to Meadowbrook Apartments and the town municipal complex here, including the library, the police department, and town hall. There was a problem with the sensor for the chlorine pump, which caused the well to shut down. Operation and Maintenance Director called our water system consultant, Small Water Systems, who responded promptly with a technician to work on resolving this issue. Immediately after securing this technician to address the problem, Mr. Siedendorf contacted the Plymouth Housing Authority in their after-hours emergency line so that they could be able to notify the residents of Meadowbrook. The water was restored to residents in the municipal complex by 7:30. However, there was a breakdown with contacting the emergency after-hours, I would say on their side. That message wasn't relayed to, they have an interim executive director who didn't get the update from them. So we're going to change that procedure now so that he'll be either called directly or text directly, and Mr. Townsend will actually be either called or text.
So he didn't get the update from Mr. Siedentopf. The procedure always was that Mr. Siedentopf would contact myself and the interim director. That didn't happen. So I've discussed that with Mr. Siedentopf, and we're all aware of what the appropriate contact should be.
Just to make sure that happens in the future going forward.
So I thought that, I think the staff performed well. I think the 2.5-hour response to get it up and running, if they could improve upon that, great. But it just sounds like there'll be improvements with regards to notifications to the residents, so they know what's going on, which sounds,
Correct. And this is the note, it's
Yeah.
frustrating. again.
No, I think again, O&M jumped right on it, and I think they got it up and running as fast as they could. North Carver Water District?
Sure, in this North Carver Water District, again, so we did assist the North Carver Water District. We put out 2 RFPs, one for a distribution system operator and then one for the engineering study to see, what it would take to get that plant back up and running. The distribution system operator is required by DEP, even though we are not pumping water. The town of Middleborough is pumping water through our system. We need to have an operator, I should say the North Carver Water District system. Unfortunately, we did not get a response to the RFP for the distribution system operator. I will tell you right now, again, North Carver Water District is a separate district, separate from the town. I did not review the RFP and give them feedback. Somehow, there has to be something wrong with that RFP why we're not getting any response. I'm frustrated, I can't answer the question for you, but there has to be something wrong there.
And this was an RFP specifically for a distribution water of
system.
Middleborough's water?
Yeah, for just the distribution system operator. And in case you have a broken pipe, you have a broken meter, somebody on our side be able to go out there and fix it and assess or, give updates of what could be done.
Right.
I don't know why they're not receiving any, any responses to it. I believe this is the second RFP now they've put out for this one. So I don't know why that is happening. And then on the engineering study, the consultants do have until tomorrow to submit, but we haven't received one response yet on that either. Nor one inquiry, but it didn't sound very serious to me.
As far as any reports that need to be filed with DEP or anyone else on behalf of the North Carver Water District, I know Middleborough was doing that. Are they still doing that?
As far as I know, they are still doing that. They are submitting all the documentation to DEP, even though they have given notice to DEP saying they no longer want to be our distribution system on.
Okay. But as far as we know, everything has been filed on a timely basis?
Correct, yes. There have been no
Yes.
violations that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Yes, they have a professional water operator, which is what we're hoping to get with that town meeting article.
I'm just trying to make sure that someone's doing that
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
on their behalf.
Not to play devil's advocate, but are we saying that we're just not hearing there are any violations and we're hoping everything gets filed, or are you in
No,
contact?
No,
It's getting filed.
I was copied on all the original correspondence. I assumed they would still copy me if there were violations,
Yeah,
and
they
I'd be
would.
aware of it. I will tell you, I do find the engineering study to be particularly frustrating. You know, the town actually has a town engineer, they have the capability to do water systems. I'm familiar with engineering firms, they acquire other firms constantly. They have recently even acquired the firm that did the initial evaluation for Mr. George McLaughlin, our local developer, when we put in for the grant. So our town engineer has acquired that firm. They have expertise to be able to step in there. If this were a town project, we'd be able to step in and have that engineering study moving forward.
So this,
I just find it frustrating, that's all.
so that means this is another good reason to have that article on the warrant.
Correct. And again, so the select board would know exactly who would be responsible for it, and that would be myself. And my job would be to move staff along to get that done. And this, the engineering study for us, for town, is very simple. We don't even have to go out to an RFP, they're already under contract.
So,
And have the capability.
so right now, if town meeting approved the warrant article, and then like you said, 3 to 6 months later, it got approved by the state, and then we don't have money in the budget to take on this role, so this would be just a rule, whatever this distribution operator or engineer would be, is this something that's going to be taken on by all town staff?
I thought Middleborough would take it in the interim.
No, so we would have to develop a budget for it. So right now, for the engineering study, we have money for a consultant. We'd be able to use our consultant line item to work on the engineering study. The distribution system operator, that money
That's what I'm
is
thinking
in the
about.
North Carver Water District budget.
Oh, okay.
So we'd be taking over that budget also.
Got it.
So I have a question, to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
So the town has an engineering company that has acquired,
The firm that
firm.
did the original assessment for George McLaughlin.
Okay,
And
so-
had some recommendations, particularly more from George's standpoint, he wanted to do the water tower, would need to be done with that, but again, they have knowledge of the system,
so
they have the capability.
So this company didn't come forward with the RFP?
Correct, as far as I know, they have not.
They could have had an opportunity to get that.
Yeah, it-
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if that article passes and we dissolve the district, then the town doesn't have to do an RFP for our own
But I'm
engineers.
just saying, this
Correct.
this engineering company that Mr.
Yeah,
Cannon said that could step right in, they have an opportunity right now to step up and
Yeah.
take this, and they have said
Correct.
no.
It's
And
very
again,
strange.
I haven't reviewed the RFP to see what's in there, because, again, you put out an RFP, nobody responds. You might talk to somebody in the field and say, hey, why didn't, did you look at this, why didn't you respond to this? What do you see as the hangup? And they might tell you what they think is unrealistic.
Okay.
And sometimes you want to split things between town forces, what can be done with town forces, because that always does save you money, and then what the consultant could be doing, Again, I don't have the answers for that. I can't give you the answers, but there has to be something wrong if nobody's responding to it.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Any updates, Mr. Cannon?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Now we're any topics not reasonably anticipated. So next item is the approval of executive session minutes for January 7th, 2025, not for release.
Motion to approve
Second.
and not release.
Second.
With a motion and a second, any other questions, issues, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
hang on.
Oop.
I just want to make sure whether I was there or not. I'm trying to.
That was the
find-
executive session.
What's that?
That was the executive session minutes that we just voted on
I understand.
from 7th, yeah.
Okay, hang on. Yeah, I have, this was, oh, never mind. Yes, different meeting.
Okay, you good?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 21st, 2025.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0.
I'm going to abstain, I wasn't there.
And I have to abstain as well.
3 and 2 abstentions. Okay.
302.
Yep.
302.
Um,
I'll make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of January 21st, 2025.
Not for release.
I'll second.
Not for release.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Nope. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Again, I'm
Whoops.
abstaining.
Sorry, I wasn't looking.
No,
That's all
I have to abstain as well. The 21st?
That
Yes.
was for the 21st. Yep.
Yeah.
Same as the last vote, 5-0-2.
302.
3-0-2. Next item, approval of the Bike MS, it's a Gateway event,
Getaway.
Saturday, January 28, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0-5-0. Next item, anyone will make a motion to approve Old Home Day 5-mile road race, Saturday, July 26, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
to approve.
Motion second.
We got 2 motions in 2 seconds. That was pretty good.
We were really in favor of it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Select Board announcements, we'll go with Ms. Hewens.
Thank you. I actually have nothing tonight, but thank you. Everybody stay warm.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yep, I agree. Everybody stay warm and take care of your neighbors. Keep an eye out.
Mr. Ryan?
I did attend the Plymouth Select Board meeting last week with 3 other Carver residents, and all 4 of us were appointed now to the Plymouth Airport Community Advisory Committee, which will be starting up this month for monthly meetings. And wish happy Valentine's Day to everybody this week, too.
Congratulations, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you.
And everyone else.
Mr. Townsend?
Thank you. I would just remind folks that town elections are coming up, and there's still time to pull papers if you're interested in running for a position and getting involved in town government. Thanks.
And I would just like to thank O&M DPW so far. We haven't had many snowstorms, but the roads look great.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's going to not be a terrible season. Yep, that's all I got. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. 5-0. We are adjourned.